Hello, my wonderful learners. Welcome back to English Fluency Teacher, the channel where your confidence meets real-world English. In today's episode, we're going to explore 100 useful English sentences you can use at the airport. Whether you're checking in, going through security, boarding your flight, or arriving in a new country, these sentences will help you speak naturally and confidently in every situation. Each sentence comes with a simple explanation and a chance for you to practice speaking aloud so you can train your ears, your voice, and your memory all at once. So get comfortable, open your mind, and let's take off together, not just to new destinations, but toward your English fluency goals. Let's begin. Part 1. Check-in and ticketing. Where is the check-in counter? You use this when you arrive at the airport and want to know where to go to check in for your flight. The check-in counter is where you get your boarding pass and drop off your luggage. Now you repeat. Where is the check-in counter? I would like to check in for my flight. You say this to the airline staff when you're ready to begin the process of checking in. It means you're confirming your presence and getting your boarding pass. Now you repeat. I would like to check in for my flight. Can I see your passport, please? This is what airport staff say when they need to verify your identity and nationality before issuing your boarding pass. Now you repeat. Can I see your passport, please? Here is my passport. You say this when handing over your passport to the staff. It's a polite way to respond to their request. Now you repeat. Here is my passport. What time is my flight? You use this when you're unsure about your departure time and want to confirm it with airport staff or check-in agents. Now you repeat. What time is my flight? Which terminal is it? Airports often have multiple terminals. You use this question to find out which terminal your flight departs from. Now you repeat. Which terminal is it? What gate do I go to? After checking in, you need to know where to board your flight. This question helps you find the correct gate. Now you repeat. What gate do I go to? How long is the flight? You use this when asking about the duration of your journey. It helps you plan your time and expectations. Now you repeat. How long is the flight? Is this a direct flight? You ask this to find out if the flight goes straight to your destination or if there are stops or layovers. Now you repeat. Is this a direct flight? Do I need to change planes? You use this when you want to know if you'll have to switch to another aircraft during your journey. Now you repeat. Do I need to change planes? Part 2. Baggage and luggage. Can I check in 2 bags? You ask this to find out if you're allowed to check in more than one piece of luggage. Now you repeat. Can I check in 2 bags? How much is the baggage fee? You use this when asking about the cost of checking in your luggage, especially if it's extra or overweight. Now you repeat. How much is the baggage fee? This bag is too heavy. You say this when your luggage exceeds the weight limit and needs to be adjusted or paid for. Now you repeat. This bag is too heavy. Can I carry this on the plane? You use this when asking if an item can be taken as hand luggage instead of being checked in. Now you repeat. Can I carry this on the plane? What's the weight limit for carry-on? You ask this to find out how heavy your hand luggage can be. Each airline has different rules. Now you repeat. What's the weight limit for carry-on? Part 3. Boarding and departure. Where is the boarding gate? You use this when you want to find the exact location where your flight will board. Now you repeat. Where is the boarding gate? Is boarding open yet? You ask this to know if passengers are allowed to start boarding the plane. Now you repeat. Is boarding open yet? What time does boarding start? You use this to find out when you should be at the gate to board your flight. Now you repeat. What time does boarding start? Can I board early? You ask this if you need extra time or have special needs and want to board before others. Now you repeat. Can I board early? I need help finding my gate. You say this when you're lost or confused and need assistance locating your gate. Now you repeat. I need help finding my gate. Is this seat taken? You use this when you want to sit somewhere and need to check if the seat is available. It's a polite way to ask before sitting. Now you repeat. Is this seat taken? I would like a window seat, please. You say this when you prefer to sit next to the window. It's often requested during check-in or seat selection. Now you repeat. I would like a window seat, please. Can I change my seat? You use this when you want to switch to a different seat, maybe for comfort or to sit with someone. Now you repeat. Can I change my seat? I prefer an aisle seat. You say this when you want a seat next to the aisle, which gives easier access to walk or use the restroom. Now you repeat. I prefer an aisle seat. Part 4. Flight delays and rebooking. Is the flight delayed? You ask this when your flight isn't boarding or departing on time and you want to know the reason. Now you repeat. Is the flight delayed? How long is the delay? You use this to ask how much extra time you'll have to wait due to the delay. Now you repeat. How long is the delay? Why is the flight delayed? You ask this to understand the cause of the delay, weather, technical issues, or other reasons. Now you repeat. Why is the flight delayed? Will I miss my connection? You use this when you're worried that the delay will affect your next flight. Now you repeat. Will I miss my connection? Can I rebook my flight? You say this when you want to change your flight due to delays or misconnections. Now you repeat. Can I rebook my flight? Part 5. Airport facilities. Where is the restroom? You use this when you need to find the bathroom. It's one of the most common questions at any airport. Now you repeat. Where is the restroom? Can I charge my phone here? You use this when looking for a charging station or outlet to power your device. Now you repeat. Can I charge my phone here? Is there free Wi-Fi at the airport? You ask this to find out if you can connect to the internet without paying. Now you repeat. Is there free Wi-Fi at the airport? What's the Wi-Fi password? You use this when you need the code to access the airport's internet service. Now you repeat. What's the Wi-Fi password? Part 5. Food and shopping. Where can I buy snacks? You ask this when you're hungry and want to find a place to buy food. Now you repeat. Where can I buy snacks? Is there a coffee shop nearby? You use this when looking for a place to get coffee or tea. Now you repeat. Is there a coffee shop nearby? How much is this sandwich? You ask this to find out the price of a food item before buying it. Now you repeat. How much is this sandwich? Can I pay with card? You use this to ask if the shop accepts debit or credit cards. Now you repeat. Can I pay with card? Do you accept cash? You ask this to confirm if you can pay with physical money. Now you repeat. Do you accept cash? Part 6. Arrival and immigration. Where do I go for immigration? You use this when you arrive in a new country and need to pass through passport control. Now you repeat. Where do I go for immigration? I'm here on vacation. You say this when immigration officers ask about the purpose of your visit. Now you repeat. I'm here on vacation. I'm here for business. You use this when your trip is work-related and you're explaining your reason for travel. Now you repeat. I'm here for business. How long will you stay? This is a common question from immigration officers. They want to know your travel duration. Now you repeat. How long will you stay? I will stay for 2 weeks. You say this to answer how long you plan to remain in the country. Now you repeat. I will stay for 2 weeks. Part 7. Customs and Declaration. Do I need to declare anything? You ask this when you're unsure. If you need to report items like cash, food, or electronics to customs. Now you repeat. Do I need to declare anything? I have nothing to declare. You say this when you're not carrying any items that require customs declaration. Now you repeat. I have nothing to declare. I'm carrying some medicine. You use this to inform customs officers that you have medication which may need approval. Now you repeat. I'm carrying some medicine. Do I need to fill out a customs form? You ask this when you're unsure if paperwork is required for your items. Now you repeat. Do I need to fill out a customs form? Where do I submit this form? You use this when you've completed a customs form and need to know where to hand it in. Now you repeat. Where do I submit this form? My luggage is missing. You say this when your checked bag didn't arrive at the baggage claim. Now you repeat. My luggage is missing. Where can I report lost baggage? You ask this when you need to inform the airline about your missing luggage. Now you repeat. Where can I report lost baggage? This isn't my suitcase. You say this when you find a bag that looks like yours but isn't. Now you repeat. This isn't my suitcase. Can you help me find my bag? You use this when asking airport staff for assistance locating your luggage. Now you repeat. Can you help me find my bag? What should I do if my bag is lost? You ask this to understand the next steps after losing your luggage. Now you repeat. What should I do if my bag is lost? Part 8. In-flight communication. Can I have a blanket, please? You use this when you feel cold and want a blanket from the flight attendant. Now you repeat. Can I have a blanket, please? May I have some water? You say this politely when you're thirsty during the flight. Now you repeat. May I have some water? Can I get a vegetarian meal? You ask this if you prefer a meat-free meal option. Now you repeat. Can I get a vegetarian meal? I ordered a special meal. You say this when you've pre-booked a specific meal like gluten-free or halal. Now you repeat. I ordered a special meal. What time will we land? You ask this when you want to know the estimated arrival time. Now you repeat. What time will we land? Can I recline my seat? You ask this when you want to lean your seat back and check if it's okay. Now you repeat. Can I recline my seat? The seatbelt sign is on. You say this when the light indicates passengers must stay seated. Now you repeat. The seatbelt sign is on. I feel a little sick. You say this when you're experiencing motion sickness or discomfort. Now you repeat. I feel a little sick. Can I have a sickness bag? You ask this when you feel nauseous and need an air sickness bag. Now you repeat. Can I have a sickness bag? Is there a doctor on board? You use this in case of a medical emergency during the flight. Now you repeat. Is there a doctor on board? Part 9. Entertainment and Connectivity. How do I use the screen? You ask this when you're unsure how to operate the in-flight entertainment system. Now you repeat. How do I use the screen? Are there any movies available? You ask this to find out what films are offered during the flight. Now you repeat. Are there any movies available? Can I use headphones? You ask this when you want to listen to music or watch a movie. Now you repeat. Can I use headphones? Do you have Wi-Fi on this flight? You ask this to find out if internet access is available during the flight. Now you repeat. Do you have Wi-Fi on this flight? Is Wi-Fi free or paid? You ask this to know if there's a cost for using the internet. Now you repeat. Is Wi-Fi free or paid? Part 10. Travelling with children. Can I get a baby seat belt? You ask this when travelling with an infant and need a special seat belt. Now you repeat. Can I get a baby seat belt? Do you have baby food? You ask this when you need food suitable for a baby. Now you repeat. Do you have baby food? Where can I change my baby's diaper? You ask this to find the baby changing station on the plane. Now you repeat. Where can I change my baby's diaper? My child is feeling uncomfortable. You say this when your child needs help or is feeling unwell. Now you repeat. My child is feeling uncomfortable. Can I get some colouring books or toys? You ask this to keep your child entertained during the flight. Now you repeat. Can I get some colouring books or toys? Part 11. Airport announcements and boarding. Final call for flight 782 to Dubai. You'll hear this when the airline is making the last announcement before the gate closes. If you're on this flight, you must hurry. Now you repeat. Final call for flight 782 to Dubai. We are now boarding passengers in Group A. This means boarding has started, and passengers in Group A can go to the gate. Boarding is often done in groups. Now you repeat. We are now boarding passengers in Group A. Please have your boarding pass ready. You'll hear this when staff ask you to prepare your boarding pass for scanning. Now you repeat. Please have your boarding pass ready. Please proceed to Gate 12. This means it's time to go to Gate 12 for boarding. You'll hear this in announcements or from staff. Now you repeat. Please proceed to Gate 12. The gate is now closed. You'll hear this when boarding has ended and no more passengers can enter. Now you repeat. The gate is now closed. Part 12. Travel documents and identification. May I see your boarding pass and ID? Staff say this when they need to confirm your identity before letting you board. Now you repeat. May I see your boarding pass and ID? I can't find my boarding pass. You say this when you've misplaced your boarding pass and need help. Now you repeat. I can't find my boarding pass. I have my passport and ticket. You say this to confirm you have the required documents. Now you repeat. I have my passport and ticket. Do I need a visa for this country? You ask this when travelling internationally and want to know if a visa is required. Now you repeat. Do I need a visa for this country? My visa is in my passport. You say this to let staff know your visa is already attached to your passport. Now you repeat. My visa is in my passport. Part 13. Interacting with staff and passengers. Excuse me, is this seat taken? You ask this politely before sitting next to someone in the waiting area. Now you repeat. Excuse me, is this seat taken? Can I sit here? You use this to ask permission to sit in an empty seat. Now you repeat. Can I sit here? Is this the line for boarding? You ask this when you're unsure which queue is for your flight. Now you repeat. Is this the line for boarding? I think you dropped something. You say this to help someone who lost or dropped an item. Now you repeat. I think you dropped something. Can you help me lift my bag? You ask this when you need help placing your bag in the overhead bin. Now you repeat. Can you help me lift my bag? Part 14. Navigating the airport. Where is the nearest restroom? You ask this when you need to find a bathroom quickly. Now you repeat. Where is the nearest restroom? Is there a lounge I can use? You ask this when you want to relax in a special waiting area, often available for business class or frequent flyers. Now you repeat. Is there a lounge I can use? How do I get to Terminal 1? You ask this when you need directions to another terminal in the airport. Now you repeat. How do I get to Terminal 1? Is there a shuttle between terminals? You ask this to find out if there's a bus or train connecting different terminals. Now you repeat. Is there a shuttle between terminals? I think I'm lost. Can you help me? You say this when you're confused or can't find your way in the airport. Now you repeat. I think I'm lost. Can you help me? Part 15. Arrival and Transit. Where is baggage claim? You ask this after landing to find the area where checked luggage is collected. Now you repeat. Where is baggage claim? I'm waiting for my suitcase. You say this when you're at baggage claim and your luggage hasn't arrived yet. Now you repeat. I'm waiting for my suitcase. Is this the right carousel? You ask this to confirm if the luggage belt is for your flight. Now you repeat. Is this the right carousel? My bag is damaged. You say this when your luggage arrives broken or torn. Now you repeat. My bag is damaged. I need to file a baggage claim. You use this when reporting lost or damaged luggage to the airline. Now you repeat. I need to file a baggage claim. Great job, Fluency champions! You've just practiced 150 real English sentences for airport situations. And every time you speak, you grow stronger in your communication skills. Remember, fluency isn't built in a day, it's built in moments like these, when you show up, speak out, and stay consistent. If this video helped you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to English Fluency Teacher, your home for motivational learning and practical English. Keep practicing, keep believing, and keep flying high with your English. See you in the next episode.